Okay, so I'm going to reply with a video to Darren, and at this point, I really have been enjoying just the attention and the feedback that I'm getting, so I'm trying to encourage more of this. And I'll do as many of this as my time allows. So, and this was his question because it was a good one. It's like, why have two terminals, right? Why couldn't you just run it in one? Well, for me, the command that I was showing actually needed to be not in an SQL prompt or in that environment. So I wanted it outside of there, but could you run it inside? Sure, it just would require a command we haven't covered. But he also asked another question, which was just about, couldn't, and he just ran them all at the end, which for this part two is fine, but going forward, what I want is the process of writing the queries for the specific commit. So as an example, right, I'm going to scroll down here. Right, so for this first one with Carter, you're going to have three queries that you write, okay? And there'll be some variation of the select command, okay? So I have my code space open, right? I have my P2 SQL. I have that first query, right? So I always so now I have that first query already written from the prior videos I've done. But still the idea is that the first thing I'm going to do is change into, right, the querying directory. For me, I like to have two terminals. So for now, and I'll introduce the other command later that'll allow you to do this in one, right? So first I go back here, right? So now I have two bash terminal sessions open, and one of them I would then do SQLite 3 and then longlist.db, which puts me into the SQL subsystem. Okay, so now I have the first query, and by the way, I could just, if I wanted to, and this is where I kind of gave some flexibility about the way you could do this. So I could say first query, right? And then I could say here, because for this first commit, and this is what I'm trying to show here, is like I'm going to have another commit, right? So, and at this point, I'm going to start writing, right? I'm not through all the queries needed, so I make sure I have all three, and then I complete the proof of work and the get workflow, right? So this is a unit that should have three queries, and when those queries are run and they're run successfully, then you would do the proof of work. So I just want to show that because it's a really good question, okay? So here I have, right? So let's say I write the next one, select, and this is what you saw me to do with James's, right? From, right, long list, making sure I have, okay. Now, and remember, in this session, I have not run mode box. I like that, so I would do that. I'd up arrow. Cool. So now I have the query, the second query I know works. It creates the output, so I would select this. Okay, and I'd come over here and I'd paste it, right? So then I'm going to have one more, right? So I'm going to have three queries for this first one. Oop, oop. Let me go back here and put it here. And now I'll say third query, okay? So, right, so on the third query, then I would get that working, right? So let's say, I think he selected two, right? So let's say author, maybe it was title. I think that's what it was, comma. And this is where we saw how to get two columns out. And then author, right? From, and then long list. Making sure I do the semicolon. That looks good, right? So now I can roll back up here. Now I have all three queries that I know are running without error. And the thing that I want you to do is then put them in your query file here. And we'll learn more about these, how to run these later. Again, I was trying to simplify, but that wasn't always the case. So now I'm going to do my first proof of work, right? So now over in my other one, I would go up and go, yeah, Rio gave me this command. Now this command is on the bash, and that's why I put that there, right? So on the bash now, I would need to be in, right, that querying directory. But I wouldn't need to be in the SQLite subsystem like I am in this terminal. Okay, you can tell that by the prompt. Okay, and the reason is this command, this series of commands actually is run SQLite with this database, then run this file, which is this file that it's inside of. Okay, so when I do that, then because I got rid of the proof of work file, okay. So now I have a new proof of work file that has my first, my second, right? And now my third. So I have 3. Okay, so I would move back over here just so I know, okay, now I'm going to start doing my, I've done the, so let's go back here, right? So now I've done the proof of work, so now I do the get workflow. Okay, so I can go back to here. Right? So now this is the other reason to have 2, because I can over here without having to drop out of the SQLite. I can do get add star, get commit -m, right? And I gave you one for this, right? So what was it? Select, right? So good here, right? Cool. So now I have all the steps required for this first commit. So this is kind of, you think of it as a batch, right? So now we continue on and we're going to write more. So before I would do that, I'd come back to my workspace, and I could keep this open if I want because I will update it. But let's just say, okay, so now what I would do is come back in here and I would control / comment those out, because now I'm going to write more queries. Okay, now I could, and I probably would actually put more text here rather than just to print 4th query, right? I might actually talk about what kind of query this is, because now I'm going to write 2 more queries, and that's what you can see here, because here's the just content here, but then we start back and learn, and there's 2, and I just updated this because I realized I didn't have the number. So then you're going to write 2 SQL commands, queries, implementing the limit. Okay, so then you would do that. You would write your next one, right? Select star from. Now, could I just copy the ones? Yeah, but when you're learning SQL, right, you want to actually get that muscle memory, and this is where you get it, right? And then from limit 10. Okay, let's say. Right, so now I have my 4th one, and then I'll have one more. Right? I'm not going to do that one because I think hopefully at this point you get it. So now, and by the way, what I didn't show, my bad, was actually writing that on here, right? Because the thing is, you want to make sure your SQL is actually without error before you actually put it in your query file. Cool, it runs without error. I know that that's good. So then I could go, okay, time to go ahead and run. Now again, I didn't write the last one. There is one more here. But I could also scroll through here, bring back my command to out. And remember what I'm doing here, right? So what I'm doing here is I now have 3. And when I run it this time, then I should have one more. I should have 4. Right? And then so you'll end up with a total of 5 for this work. And that's how I will grade it. I will look at, and the thing is, I'm looking for your work and these, when I look at your commits, I want to see the work that was required for that. I love these questions. I appreciate these questions. My videos are intended to help clarify, because we're all learning together, and when we're trying something new, sometimes it just doesn't come out the way we think. So thanks for the question, Darren.